The story of the Nephilim begins when they descended from the sky and mated with the daughters of men. This is the familiar story that repeats itself countless times in ancient mythologies. Was it invented? He strongly contradicts the spirit of the Bible, which promotes belief in one pure and abstract God who does not come down to earth, and certainly does not mate with the daughters of men and give birth to monstrous hybrid sons. So why did the writers of the Bible, who crafted the perfect story, include elements that were contrary to their faith? What issue did the story solve for them? Genesis 6 verses 1 to 4. Now it happened, when men began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were good in appearance, and they took wives for themselves, whomever they chose. Then Yahweh said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, because he indeed is flesh. Nevertheless his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. According to these verses, how can God have sons? How can it be explained that sons of God came down to earth and mated with the daughters of men, giving birth to the Nephilim? Who were the Nephilim? We'll find out about that shortly. In the next paragraph of the Bible, it appears humans began to sin, so God decided to bring a flood, destroying the humans and animals he had created. Genesis 6 verses 5 to 8. Then Yahweh saw that the evil of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And Yahweh regretted that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. And Yahweh said, I will blot out man whom I have created from the face of the land, from man to animals to creeping things and to birds of the sky, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of Yahweh. After these verses, we understand that the mating of the sons of God with the daughters of men created an evil man whose thoughts and actions were evil, thus prompting the flood to come and destroy evil. The interpretation is not written in Bible because it was the result of the mating of the sons of God with the daughters of men, so here we connect the outer books. From the outer books, we learn that after creation, God determined their place in heaven. However, they used to descend to earth and wander among humans, mating with the daughters of humans and giving birth to hybrid sons, who were gods on their father's side and mortals on their mother's side. And these hybrids were huge, strong, and terrible giants. So, who are the fallen from God's world and how did they get into the Bible? To understand this, let's take a moment to look at the theologies of other nations. For example, Gilgamesh, the monstrous giant who lived about 6,000 years ago in Sumer, was 2/3 god and 1/3 mortal man. Likewise, Achilles, the hero of the Troy War, was the son of Thetis, a sea nymph, and Peleus, a king of flesh and blood. And Hercules, the strongest of men, was born to Zeus, the king of the Greek gods, and a mortal woman named Alcmene. The gods led an eternal life, while also robbing, stealing, cheating, quarreling, and waging wars. As they used to descend to earth and give birth to human daughters, they thus instilled evil in the hybrids they created. The God described in the Bible is radically different from the gods of the neighboring nations. His power is infinite, and he is pure and holy. Since he is a single God, there is no possibility that he will beget sons. There is no possibility that he would come down to earth to give birth to the daughters of a man or create humans whose hearts are evil. He will create humans who eventually die. The creation story that opens the Bible attributes creation to only one God, who does not have a body, does not reproduce, or comes down to earth to mate with the daughters of men. Genesis 6 verse 1. Now it happened, when men began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them. Apparently, humans reproduce because they cannot die, and humans also cannot do or think evil because God created Adam and Eve in a state of purity. Genesis 6 verse 5. Then Yahweh saw that the evil of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. However, something is not right here, and it is not hidden in the concept of the Bible, since man was created by God as a pure being without evil. Let's explain these things. The idyllic concept of God required the writers of the Bible to find an external source for man's evil doing and man's death. But this cannot be the God in the Bible because that is not how he created man. That is why the writers of the Bible gave up the concept that God is the only supreme power that works in the world. This story, that he had sons who came down to earth and gave birth to the daughters of man, leads us to the outer books. According to external books, there is a long line of angels beneath God. Similar to the gods described in ancient mythologies, they also descended to earth and worked among the people. Naturally, God is the master of the holy angels and ministering angels who serve him. According to external sources, both holy angels and destruction angels descended to earth and worked among the people. The ministering angels acted on God's mission, while the sabotage angels acted on Satan's mission. The Book of Jubilees was written circa 250 BC, and the Book of Enoch was written circa 300 BC, both during the time when the Bible was written. The author of Jubilees repeated many of the stories found in the Book of Genesis, such as the story of creation, the stories of the fathers and mothers, the story of the sons of the gods who descended to earth and mated with the daughters of men, and the story of the flood. There is no doubt that the writers of the Bible were aided by the Jubilees and the Book of Enoch, through which they introduced death and man's innate desire to do evil into their book. The author of the Book of Jubilees writes what the Bible writers refrained from writing, and that is that the hybrids born to the angels, who without a doubt fell under the power of Satan, were giants, murderers, and cannibals who ate each other. They were the perpetrators of impurity and those who corrupted the nature that God had established in humans, animals, and creation until God had no choice but to bring a flood upon the earth. The writers of the Bible should have used these books as a bridge between the concept of a holy and pure God, who cannot create anything impure, and the murky reality. In the Book of Enoch, the angels who desired the daughters of men were the messengers of Satan. These angels, led by Shamhazi and Satan, conspired against God. The disobedient and rebellious group swore a boycott to come down to Israel, with one goal, to give birth to sons for human daughters, who would corrupt the divine creation. Therefore, it is clear that the writers of the Bible, who promoted the belief in the existence of one God, ignored the mythologies of neighboring nations and distanced themselves from the popular myths that prevailed in Israel about monstrous giants, which were said to be about 900 meters tall, who ate each other's flesh and drank their blood, whose steps caused earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. These monsters came straight from the mythologies that prevailed in the ancient world, which we find in the outer books of Enoch. The Bible records the existence of giants in ancient times. The first biblical record of the sons of the giant is already mentioned in Genesis. Genesis 6 verse 4. The Nephilim were in Israel in those days. The Bible also mentions a kingdom of ghosts, whose subjects were giants, and from them, Og took control of Bashan. The Bible also tells us that, when the spies came to examine the land after the exodus from Egypt and to determine if it was suitable for settlement, they saw giants in the Hebron area. Deuteronomy 13 verse 22. In the time of the prophet Samuel, the legendary battle between David and Goliath and his brothers, who were giants, is recorded. This biblical documentation also aligns with the historical traditions of other peoples from around the ancient world who reported the existence of giants. The aspiration to keep the Bible free from any mixing with mythologies and myths was not successful. The Bible mentions angels who took the form of ordinary people and descended to earth to mingle among the people, just as is told in mythologies and external books such as the Book of Enoch. For example, the Bible story of 3 angels revealed to Abraham and Sarah that they would have a son, and they went to Lot in Sodom to announce the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. The Bible mentions the cherubim and the seraphim, which were heavenly animals revealed to the prophets. This indicates that the authors of the Bible did not keep the Bible free from external influences. However, all of the angels mentioned in the Bible were God's messengers and acted on His behalf. They were not the messengers of Satan and did not come to earth with the purpose of giving birth to hybrids monstrous and murderous with human girls. Our understanding of what is commonly accepted by all writers of the Bible changed when we encountered the unusual story of the angels who came down to earth to have children with the daughters of men, and this is the story of the Nephilim in the Bible. We hope you learned something new today. If you did, give this video a like and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more informative and entertaining content. Thank you for watching. See you next time.